Welcome back to It's Not Just a Tuesday, the podcast where we talk about work and life and the stories that connect us all. I am Andrea Walker-Lighty, your host, and really just the person who had the idea that I wanted to be able to have conversations that other people heard. And the stories that I get to hear in my life and in the work that I do are so compelling and so impactful that I couldn't help but want to share them more and empower people to share those stories. So every week, every Tuesday, I have the opportunity to talk to somebody great, and today is no different. I'm very honored to know and have here today Jamie Matthews, who is just a warrior of all types, a champion for women and a champion in our community. And Jamie, I am thrilled and really just happy that you took some time to spend with me today and share a little bit more about your story and how others can grow their story.
I'm absolutely honored, Andrea. This has been a blessing. I'm excited. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's dive right in. And you've got such a cool story, and I've been able to watch a little bit of your journey and script some video content with you with clients and things like that. Jamie and I met through a nonprofit organization that I work with called Haven, that is a domestic violence and sexual assault support organization and a residential program for people who are fleeing. And Jamie has become one of their biggest advocates. And I'm going to let Jamie share how she does that advocacy because it's a super cool way. But that's really where we met and where I've been able to learn so much of your story. And I think it's so impactful for you to share and let people know kind of where you've come and why you started doing Jeep Babes and where you're at now.
Okay, wow. I'm not sure exactly where to start. So as far as Jeep Babes and Haven goes, so I'm a leader of an all women's group. So we're all women, all Jeeps. And that started, I joined them in 2020. And that was first just I got my Jeep, started meeting these really powerful, just empowered women that support each other. I've never seen so many women come together and just make a difference in the world. And eventually I ended up taking a leadership role. And I guess the foundation of Jeep Babes is not only to support one another, but to support our community. So we do a lot of fundraising. We typically look for small businesses to support. So we'll have coffee events and just meet up at a smaller coffee-owned business like Mugs in Waterford. Mugs Coffee and Grub is one of our famous ones. We do monthly.
Yeah.
And so when we were looking for somehow to empower survivors of sexual abuse and domestic violence, because everyone knows one, right? So either you've been a survivor yourself or you know someone that has gone through that. So that really took off. We had an idea 3 years ago to support Haven, and Haven means so much to me because not only I used Haven services, gosh, I hate to say it, but probably 30 years ago when I was a teenager and I was sexually abused. And my mom took me to Haven for counseling. So
Wow.
Haven has been around for a very, very long time and has proven its success over and over. So, but most recently, my daughter was physically assaulted and she was battered pretty badly and was even choked and strangled. And so I went to Haven and we went there for a forensic exam, which I don't know that a lot of people are aware that that's a service that Haven offers versus going to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Right. It was just so much more intimate and safe feeling for her. And they were able to support me, my daughter. They found 55 marks on her body.
My
that
God.
eventually we were able to use that documentation to put her abuser behind bars. So with that personal experience, it really fueled my fire to not only to do that for my daughter and honor my daughter, but for all women, men, children, anyone that has to be at the hands of an abuser should have a place like Haven, within reach. And
Yeah.
so the Jeep Babes and I decided that that was going to be our largest fundraiser of every year. That was going to be our primary focus. It started off, we were just going to do like a little meetup and try to raise money. And the very first year we did it, ended up with over hundreds of
It was
people
huge.
and
Yeah.
sponsors and vendors. And, we, between the first 2 years, we raised I think it was 52 or
Yeah.
$54,000 that this Jeep group has raised for Haven.
So
And
amazing.
we are full speed ahead on the 2024 third year show. So we're excited.
That's so exciting. Yeah. It's funny because when I heard about the first Jeep Babes, I was like, these ladies have a group. They all drive Jeeps. They're going to do a festival, and I saw it from the PR standpoint of, helping to promote it, and I was like, okay, I guess that'll be a nice little thing. And then when I met you all and I saw you and I saw what you were going to accomplish, and it's not a couple of women with Jeeps, it is a caravan of 140, I think, you brought through to drop off donations after the event. And I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about 140 Jeeps driving into the headquarters of this domestic violence shelter to drop off essential items that they needed, that in addition to fundraising, that these women had gone out into the community and collected. And it's so impactful to see not only women come together and just celebrate something they love, which is so cool. I'm all about connection and people just being able to have fun together, but you really took it to mean something. You're not just getting together to hang out and have a car show, which is just so amazing.
Yeah. And we've gotten so much support and a couple big milestones just in the last year. Jeep Babes became their own nonprofit 501c3. So
Mm,
that was
I didn't know
amazing.
that. That's awesome.
Yes. And then we actually just got recognized by Jeep Stellantis as an enthusiast club. So
Oh,
that was
cool.
huge. That was a couple
Yeah.
years in the
Yeah.
making to get that approval. So just really super exciting stuff. Like this, like I said, these women, I have seen the most precious friendships evolve. Some that, well, I'll give an example. We have one member that was in a really bad car accident, and she suffers from a traumatic brain injury. She was at a very low time in her life when she found her way to Jeep Babes.
Wow.
And she is thriving right now. And she has connections with some friends that, you know, they needed each other. And to
Yeah.
see them both evolve and grow, I watched their friendship in awe. The other lady she made friends with, has lost her husband, has lost a child. And so it's remarkable. And that's my drive is not
Amazing.
just helping the community, but seeing these women empower each other
Mm-hmm.
um, is so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so
That's
good.
really
It's
cool.
good stuff.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about, I know that that your journey and your own survivorship from domestic violence and sexual assault brought you to Haven and to really want to do the work with Jeep Babes. Talk a little bit about your personal journey. I know that you have kind of evolved your passion for helping women into doing some coaching and things like that. And I think that probably speaks a lot to what you do with Jeep Babes because you want to see that empowerment. And I just found out how long you'd been doing coaching and things like that because you wear so many hats. So talk a little bit about what that looks like and how you're able to help folks there and kind of what your specialty or where your expertise is there.
So how I got into coaching is interesting. It's a story I love to tell, so I'm glad that you asked. I have a very for a lot of my life was very dark, very traumatic. I came from a broken family. I was a child of an alcoholic. I suffered through sexual abuse as a teenager, into a marriage that had infidelity, to relationships after that contained domestic violence and narcissistic, so a lot of emotional abuse. And what I ended up doing and how I ended up coping at the time was I drank and I became an alcoholic. So I found my answers at the bottom of a bottle. And then one day when I decided I had enough, that was my rock bottom. So a lot of people think rock bottom, they picture someone homeless on a bench with
Right.
a bottle in a brown paper bag. And it doesn't have to be that. We don't
Yep.
have to lose everything to hit rock bottom.
Yep.
It's that enough was enough for me. And so I just back in May just celebrated 10 years of sobriety. I was a
Wow.
one and done.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I learned the hard way on what not to do
Yeah.
when you go through abuse. And so I went to a retreat early in my sobriety. I think I was only 2 years into my sobriety, and it was for a retreat for women of AA and Al-Anon. And in that retreat, there's what you call a retreat master. So she's the lady that does all the workshops and the seminars throughout the weekends.
Okay.
And we got to have some one-on-one time. So we were sitting on a bench and in a garden, and we were just having a casual conversation. I was telling her about my life and my journey. And she looked at me and she goes, so this was back in 2016.
Okay.
And she looked at me and she goes, have you ever thought about being a life coach? And like this light switch went off on me, like off within me. And I was like super excited. And I just felt like this rush of blood. I'm not sure what it was, but I'm like, what the heck is a life coach? Like I had
Right.
never heard of it before, because back
Yeah.
then it wasn't a thing,
Yeah.
right?
It was just starting, really. People were just starting to figure that out.
Right. So I'm like, that's what I have to be. That's what I meant to be. It was that powerful. So when I got home, I may not drink, but I still have addictive personality where I'm in, I'm
Yep.
all in. I
Yep.
like obsess over it, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm the same way.
for,
I call it, those are our superpowers. We use them for good or evil. That's just it.
that's right. So I researched life coach training programs. And again, when I'm in, I'm all in. So yes, there's programs out there you can pay a couple $100 and get a certificate and you're done.
Right.
But I really wanted to learn and skill set. I really wanted to have tools that I could teach other people.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to help people that are leaving relationships not turn to the bottle or not
Mm-hmm.
turn to drugs and not turn to self-destruction,
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately I became my worst abuser, right? And that I could never escape because it
Yeah.
was always in my head to torture myself. And so I found a company or a school. It's called IPEC,
Okay.
and it was about a 1.5 to 2 year training program that was super intense. And
Wow.
I had to go to Chicago 3 times for like 30
Okay.
hours of training each time. We did coaching over the phone. So I had a peer coach. I coached a peer. We had to
Okay.
coach with a master coach. It was a really intense program.
Yeah. Wow.
So when I did that, though, that's when my life changed. It wasn't just that I learned skill sets that I could coach other people. That's when I went from living as a victim to thriving in my life, because my mindset completely changed. And I had more personal growth in that 1.5 years that I had in my entire life.
Wow.
It just took me to a whole different level of my mindset. And
Well, probably having to learn the skills to dig up the stuff to be able to help others, right? You needed
yes,
to to do that work on yourself first, right? I feel like it's probably so impactful. I feel like when you learn to teach, you probably, you go through it more than most.
well, I think, like when you're a police officer, you have the option to be tased, so you know what it feels like, right? They
Yeah.
encourage you to do
Yeah.
that. So same thing with IPAC. They made us peel back the layers. They made us dig deep within ourselves.
Mhm.
We had to do all the work. Anything that I use for my clients now, I had to do myself.
That's fun.
And so within that, I just knew, like, oh my gosh, I've got to take this further. It was just amazing. So I started my business, Real Life Coaching, back in 2017 once I was certified.
Okay.
And then even from that, there's the International Coaching Federation where you can further your education and become a member. So I got my associates in
Okay.
coaching.
Wow.
But I was in the corporate world at the time, and it was, you know, I was working for an industrial contracting company, and I was able to start a program within there that for career coaching. So I worked with a lot of tradesmen and women
Okay.
and help them through their career, get them to the next level. We did
Well, that's
things like
awesome.
communication, accepting change, all of the fun
Yeah.
stuff. But I really wanted to have the opportunity to go full time, and I just recently took that risk, and I'm excited. I'm starting a whole new journey doing it full time.
That's amazing. So you took the certification and the life coaching piece, and you were able to then offer that and do that at your corporate job?
Yes, I
Love that.
was.
I mean, and what a perfect example of, like, do what you love. You might still have to have a job, but if you
Mhm.
maybe raise your hand and say, "Hey, I love this. I do this outside of work. Can it help at work too?" Right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think that's something we probably forget about, that, I tell people all the time, doesn't not everyone needs to be a small business owner, right? It's not for everybody.
Hmm.
Not everyone needs to consult or go out on their own. I think it's awesome when people do, because, like you are
Yeah.
probably seeing now, right? You wake up in the morning and everything is yours. Um, and that is wonderful and awful all at the same time. It's so scary, but there is something so unique about the type of person who has that drive, and I always really connect well with that type of person just because I am that type of person. We're a little bit risky. Um,
Mhm.
I say it's the gutsy people. It doesn't mean that you are more talented than someone else or have more expertise. You're just a little gutsier. And so, I love that even before you were ready to go out on your own, you were gutsy enough to say, my corporate job needs this, and bring it there and be able to use that skill set and probably hone into that. That's amazing.
Thank
What have
you.
you seen, in coaching and, navigating corporate life? What do you really see people lacking? And where do you think that we're missing those spots that we can find empowerment and that drive to really want to discover who we are and what our passions are?
What I really feel, everything boils down to our core values. And so, with all the coaching that I've done since 2017, I have yet to have a client that said, oh, I know what my core values are. I have a really fun exercise that I do to help people define what their core values are, because it is really the foundation of who we are. All our
Mm,
decisions are based on our core values. When we're feeling
okay.
out of alignment or we're feeling, displaced, lost, it's because we're not connecting with our core values. And this goes into like work life balance
Yeah.
as well. So when you feel that, let's say, a man's core value is family, and his idea of family, because two people can share the same core value, but they could look very differently.
Right.
Let's say this core value of family means that he's home having dinner with his family every night and helping his wife um, bathe the children and do the homework and make all the sporting events. So if he has a job that works him overtime all the time and calls
Yeah.
him in on weekends and takes away from his family time, he's really going to build a lot of resentment. And
Mm,
he's going to, right? And then it's hard for him to enjoy his job that he feels, but he might not even be aware it's because it's challenging his core value of family.
right. Okay.
Um, and the same thing with a guy that his core value may be family, but he's a provider and he wants to have dinner on the table and be able to take family vacations and do all
Yeah.
of the things.
Right.
So he needs a job that does offer all the overtime and is gone working all the time.
Okay.
And so he can fulfill that core value. So it's really figuring out what your, like I always go with 4. What are your 4 core values? And everything in your life should be able to honor those in some
Okay.
sense. And
Yeah.
if you're missing one, if you are missing, let's say, freedom, let's say mine is freedom, right?
Hmm.
And if my time is always robbed by all of these certain things and decisions are being made for me, like when I was in the corporate world, I
Hmm.
couldn't make a decision. I had bosses, I had bosses, I had bosses, right? It was really challenging, that core value of
Okay.
freedom.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what it boils down to when people are looking to, like, what is going on. I've had clients call me and say, I don't even know why I want a coach. I don't even know where to start. I'm just at loss.
Yeah.
And that's where I started, getting to the root
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what their foundation is, what their core values are, what they believe in.
Hmm. Well, I think we talk a lot, in the business world, a lot of people talk now about finding your why and in
Yeah.
those pieces. And I think you're talking about exactly that, right?
Yeah.
It's the why. It's why do you do this? And then prioritizing the things that will fulfill your why. That's, I think
It's not
we
even
do
just
miss that.
finding the why, it's the how. That's
Yes.
what I was always lost before I went through my coach training. Was people would say, well, just leave your business or just leave him. He's toxic for you. But it's how. How
Yes.
do I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think, I talk a lot about I'm really open and honest about my mental health journey. And, one of the things that I've been honest about is the reason that I have navigated my career the way that I have is because I needed to find one of my core values is the flexibility of
Yeah.
life, right? I
Mhm.
have to be able to find flexibility because I need to make sure that I'm always taking care of my mental health as a priority because then everything else works really well. I can be
Right.
the best woman and wife and mother and business owner if I have the flexibility to prioritize my mental health. And so I've been able to thrive really just because I've put that first. Whether it looks messy, whether it doesn't look like anybody else's life, I'm okay with that. And I think that's the part that we miss because we're like, how do we do that, right? And there are tons of places where I still am trying to figure out the how, right? But I remember being younger and people saying, you know, just get over it, or it's not that big of a deal, or all of these things, right? But when you are a deep feeling empathetic person, which I am,
Mhm.
and you also have, at that time I didn't know I was struggling with mental health issues. I just thought something was kind of wrong with me, right?
Mhm.
The how, no one knew, right? How do I feel better? How do I fit in this world, right? And I think that is the piece that we forget. And I really think we have forgotten it in our business lives. I do this exercise with people as we're cultivating their story because, to me, story is everything. Well, storytelling is, the what you learn in elementary school: who, what, where, when, why, and how, right?
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And so we do an exercise where we're constantly doing what's the who behind the how and why.
Mhm.
Everybody in the business world now is really good at doing this find your why and everybody know why you're working. Well, the truth is most of us are working to make money. So it
Right.
doesn't always work to find your why in corporate America. Even if you
Yes.
love your job, right? It's part of your life. And so I
Mhm.
started really looking at the who piece of it because in the business world, whether you're the business owner or whether you are part of a team, who you are is so important to what happens in the day. Who you
Right.
are is so important to how something gets done. Because to your point, right, everyone's core value is different. So even if you and I are in the exact same industry, I wrote this in the ebook that we have on authentic branding. I said, everyone's a plumber. The only difference, we all have the same plungers, we all have the same tools, we all have, let's just say everyone's a plumber. The only difference is who I am when I come to plunge your toilet. The
Right.
only difference is who I am and what my journey is and what my story is. And that's the difference in how I connect with someone and who I connect with best, right? If we have to
Right.
pick a plumber, we're going to pick the one that we like the best. And that's okay.
Mhm.
That's the right plumber for us. And I
Right.
think we just forget that so much is who are we when we show up at work
Mhm.
or when we do things. I love that, finding that core value piece of it, because I do think we don't really know very often. We're so busy, we don't probably stop to think about, why do I do this? What is in my core?
Right. Yeah, we get so busy on living on a surface level that
Mhm.
we don't take the time to dig any deeper, but we
Yeah.
also don't know how to dig any deeper. We
Right.
don't know how to self-reflect.
Yeah.
We don't know how to, I'm big on advocating on keeping your power and and helping my clients and guiding them through on where they're giving their power away and how to maintain their power, how to live life on their terms
Mhm.
and how that's okay, how
Yeah.
to break all the rules that are getting in their way right now. All the rules
Mhm.
that we learned, growing up on, you know, as a child, you're supposed to be seen, not heard. Like,
Yeah.
come on, that doesn't work today. So let's break
Right.
that rule. I'm all about breaking rules, right?
Mhm.
So what are some rules that I can live by? And it's, well, not only do I want to be seen, I want to be heard. So when I have something to say, I'm going to learn to speak up. And it's
Yeah.
literally making new rules for our life and
I
keeping
love
power
that.
within.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's so
nothing
cool.
has to be done. I am kind of a rule breaker, and even a society, recently I lost my daughter in a year. It was just over a year ago,
Yeah.
and that was a true test of my mindset, my mental health, my
Yeah.
coaching, everything. Because thank God for the skills that I do have, the self-reflecting,
Wow.
because so easily I could have went down um, the guilty path or the what ifs. But I knew that was a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to go down it. So I was able to navigate this grief, eh, to me, in a very healthy way, and that
Mhm.
sometimes looks messy,
Yeah.
and sometimes it was days without sleep. But um, overall, I feel like I control my grief. It doesn't control me,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean that it hits me out of the blue once
Right.
in a while,
Yeah.
but I know, okay, here, it's here, come on in, grief, like, do what you gotta do.
Oh,
You're on a
yeah.
time
Yeah.
limit, and then I'm gonna
Yeah.
let it go. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna let it control me. So it's just really finding our power in how to control um, what affects our life and what doesn't. And that's one of the root of my coaching business, is learning to not live at the effect of our lives,
Mhm.
and becoming a victim of having that mentality, everything happens to me.
Yeah.
And so even when my daughter passed away, I don't look at it as a punishment to me.
Right.
It happened.
Yeah.
And life is not always fun and is not always fair, but I'm not going to live at the effect of what has happened.
That's so important. Yeah, that's so
Mm-hmm.
good. I've been able to, watch and be a part of some of that journey just from a distance, seeing you
Mm-hmm.
navigate this past year. And I don't know that I've ever seen someone navigate a year that is awful with such grace. And I can tell that you have been determined to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and to make sure that you don't lose your purpose because this
Mm-hmm.
awful thing happened. And I think that's the part that I don't think you're right. We didn't learn how to do that, in our society. And so we know how to like fall apart, or we know how to pretend nothing's wrong. Like there's no middle
Yes.
ground.
Right.
And, I love that what you said about it's still going to show up. It's still there, and in my journey and overcoming grief and things like that, I realized that the best that I was when I really just embraced all of
Right.
those things that we're taught
All
to
of it.
be scared of,
Mhm.
and let them process and wasn't scared of them. Because then you can say, okay, no, everything doesn't happen for a reason. Everything just happens,
Right.
and we can
And
figure
to
out
that
what our life is.
right. And to that point too, it's I'm a firm believer in what we tell ourselves is the truth. And so society tells us things over and over and over again, but that doesn't have to be our truth. So for an example, when it was coming up on the 1 year mark, I don't even like to call it an anniversary because that seems like a celebration, right? So her
Right.
1 year mark of her passing, I started to feel it internally. I was getting
Yeah.
edgy. I wasn't sleeping. I'm like, what's going on?
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, it's that time of year. Like you sense things, have a certain smell that will
Mhm.
bring back. And so that was happening. So then I thought, okay, what am I going to do with this? And how am I not going to let this drag me down for the next month,
Right.
as we get closer to that 1 year mark? Well, a lot of people will say, if I ever lost a child that would kill me, I would never be able to make it through that.
Mhm.
Stop telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Start telling yourself, no matter what happens to me in life, I will find a way to get through it. Because, you know, and when this happened, I was the happiest I'd ever been in my life. I'm doing my coaching. I'm helping change lives. I'm a leader of the most magnificent group out there. I have the
Hmm.
best husband. I'm sorry, but I literally have the best
I've met
husband on
him. You
the
really
face of this
do. Yeah.
And so I'm like, gosh darn it, I've worked way too hard in my sobriety and my coach training and all of the things that I'm not going to let what happened destroy everything that I've worked so hard for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So during that month, getting closer to the 1 year passing, I realized that when she first passed, everyone would say things like, hold on to the good memories. Just keep remembering all the good memories. Well, my daughter Hope, like I said earlier in the podcast, that she was a survivor of
Mhm.
abuse. And she did not have the greatest coping skills either when it came to overcoming that abuse. And so we went through a lot of turmoil together. So when she passed away, that's all I could think about.
Yeah.
I literally, like, it was almost like I blacked out. I couldn't think of the 20 years I had with her, of all of these wonderful memories.
Yeah.
I just couldn't, like, my brain blocked all the good stuff
Right.
out.
Right.
So what I decided to do was, for 1 month, every day on my Facebook, was I found a picture of her starting
Mhm.
when she was little
This was
and
such a
shared,
beautiful tribute. Yeah.
yeah, and I just brought her back to life in my heart and in my soul. And I'm like, ah, remember when she was 3 years old dancing on tables to, certain songs? And it just, so that, see, I got the opposite effect.
Yeah.
I felt closer to her. I felt more
I love that.
connected to her
Yeah.
by forcing myself to relive, like, those moments and those memories through those
Mhm.
pictures, versus avoiding pictures because it's going to be a negative impact.
Right.
Again, what you tell yourself is your truth. You say,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this to feel connected, then that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah.
That's so important. I feel like uh just what you said about forcing yourself
Mm-hmm.
to do this thing, right? I think sometimes we think, oh, whatever, however I feel, I'm gonna,
Mm-hmm.
lean into your feelings, acknowledge your feelings, right? But
Yeah.
you can't get stuck there, right? You might have to do
Mm-hmm.
some activities that make you learn a new thing or feel a new thing.
Yes. That's
And
exactly.
so it's okay to, like, make a strategy, make a plan
Mm-hmm.
that gets you through whatever that hard
Right.
moment is. I think that's so important. And it, what it did, I mean, I know it helped you, and it was, a mission for you, but it also gave all of us that are connected to you on social media an opportunity to learn, and to learn a piece of your story, and a piece of hope story that we would have never learned otherwise.
Right.
And so, people who follow you, who've seen your journey in the last couple of years, but didn't know hope as a child,
Right.
right?
Yes.
What a beautiful opportunity for us to also see something different and to also learn something different about her and something fun and sweet.
That's what I loved, because she was so full of life, and she was so amazing. And you're right, a lot of people only knew her because of her death, of her passing. And I didn't want that. I wanted
Mhm.
people to know just how wonderful she was, and just how, I mean, just all around, she was funny. She was amazing. She was resilient. She was strong. She was just amazing. And so, yes, for me, what I look at is, what outcome do I want?
Mhm.
And through this, I'm like, I don't want it to take away everything I worked hard for.
Mhm.
So then every decision I make, I say to myself, is this going to get me to the outcome I want? Or is it going to
Yeah.
take me further away from it? So if I go into the what ifs and the whys and all of that, then I risk my sobriety, because I'm in such a low
Yeah.
place in my life. So I have to make decisions on what is going to get me closer to the outcome I want.
Right.
So it's always having a plan, always knowing where I want to end
Yeah.
up. Just my decisions have to, is going to get me one step closer to that.
That's so smart. And it just the keep your eye on the prize feeling,
Yes,
right?
yes,
I think it's easy to, what we've said it, I think in the beginning of this conversation, life is busy.
mm-hmm,
It is easy to get stuck in the busyness of
yeah,
life and forget why we're here. I did a
mm-hmm,
social media post just yesterday with a picture of my son, because when I start getting bogged down in life, I make myself rem you know, I look at him and I see the potential that he has in his life, and I feel the honor that I have to get to be his parent. And I remember that the outcome for me is making sure that I give him the life that I want him to deserve, and that I know he deserves, but also create a world that I want him to live in, and that I
right,
do good things for him and show him what an empowered life can look like. And I can only do that if I'm my best self.
right,
And I think that's so important, the outcome piece of it in any area of life, just looking at that and saying, where am I now? Where do I want to be?
mm-hmm,
And if where you are now is a comfortable place, then that's okay. Then how do I sustain that? One of the
right,
things that's really tough for me personally and in business is the maintenance. Everybody's really good at going on a diet. How do you maintain that? Everyone's really good at achieving a goal, but what's the maintenance look like? What does the sustainability look like? And starting something is sometimes easier than sustaining
right,
something.
right,
And so I think it is keeping the eye on those outcomes. I love that. So I want to take a minute. This is my favorite part of the conversation, where you are someone who shares so much of your story so openly and freely,
mhm,
that I know that you do this already. But just being intentional about that our Tuesdays are not just Tuesdays, right? That when we
right,
are doing our life, and even if it's busy, those moments are a piece of our story if we choose to look at them that way.
right,
And one of the things that I always am talking to with people as we cultivate their story and we work on thought leadership or branding or how they want to show up is, what is on your calendar? Because so often, I think we do core exercises, core value exercises without even knowing it. But I
mhm,
have people look at their calendars, and because whether you want to believe it or not, the things that are on your schedule are the things that are important to you, because that's what made it
right,
into your life, right? So usually it's, work, an activity, family, some friends, right? These are the things that fill
yeah,
our calendar. And
mhm,
so those are the things that are important to us. And I think we forget that those are the things that are our story. So share a little bit of your calendar with us. Maybe it's something that have shared on social media. Maybe it's something that you didn't. But what is last Tuesday? look like for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, right now my schedule is full of clients and my sessions, but also G-Babe stuff. Um, so if I were to look at but I also have some self-care stuff in there. So like I'm planning on going to a sunflower festival because I love sunflowers,
I
right?
love
So,
that.
but basically, if I were to overall look at my calendar, I'm looking to make a difference in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, last Tuesday, I could say, so, I obviously have confidentiality code of ethics that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
follow,
of
but
course.
overall, there was a client that kept saying, "I don't believe that stuff about me. Like, I don't believe that there's good stuff about me." And
Mm.
I'm like, so if you tell me 5 things that are good qualities of yourself, and she listed them off, and I said, then stop telling yourself you don't believe it, because if you can tell me what they are,
Wow.
you believe it, right? The only part that's getting in your way is that you keep saying to yourself, I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with believing it,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so I remember that just conversation just being super impactful, and her aha moment of going, well, wait a second, you're right. Like, I must believe it if I said it,
yeah.
right?
If I can recognize it, it must be there.
So it's
Wow.
even finding, like, with coaching, it's finding ways that people are just getting in their way,
Yeah.
and in helping guide them through that and be like, a lot of people tell themselves things that just don't work for their life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's my job to recognize that and
Yeah,
and help them rephrase that, right?
yeah.
So my calendar is full of not just moments where I change people's lives or in hopes to, but I'm literally surrounded. My Jeep group just in Michigan has over 4,500 members. And every
Wow.
day on my calendar, there's something that these women bring to my life, whether it's a post um, that where they've achieved something, or um, went to their first event and felt so welcome, and
Yeah.
how loving they felt, to where, like this necklace I'm wearing right here. These were all like little gifts I can share with you. I don't know if you can see it, but like this glass heart. I've got this other light over here that has pictures of my daughter and I, that these women would not let me fall when I lost my daughter. No matter
Mhm.
if the days that I did fall, they were holding me up. Like,
Wow.
whether they know it or not, I never had to go so low because they were there to cushion my fall.
Yeah.
And so they give back to me more than, they always say, oh, you do so much, but it's like, I will always feel in debt to them because
Wow.
they don't understand the impact that they have just on my life. And I
Mhm.
love that we have the platform to come together as a tribe and do
Mhm.
things for, like, say, Haven, and be humble enough that all of our hard work, we know, in supporting Haven is saving people's lives.
Yeah,
It is
it
it
is.
is making a difference in their lives. And so that's what my calendar is full of. And I don't go a day without feeling grateful for the opportunities that have been given to me through the Jeep Babes and through Haven in my coaching business. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so incredibly grateful for all of it.
I love that. And such a testament to your passion and knowing your core values, right? Knowing that you want to make a difference and that you want freedom, but you want freedom for others too. And I think, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to people like this is because I think that when we peel back the layer of whatever we show people and we tell our stories, it's when we feel connected. And I want a world that feels more connected than separate. I want us to remember that we're more alike than different, because I think we're missing that so much right now. And I think that when we do that, when we allow ourselves to do that, that's how we get a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we find community. If we're not willing to let our guard down and be open and honest, and then if we're not willing to listen to others and find common ground, right? I think Jeep Babes is the perfect example of find common ground, right? if
Yep,
it,
the Jeeps.
yes, it might be Jeeps that connect you, but it's not Jeeps that keep you connected. You found common ground so
Exactly.
that no
Mhm,
matter what color or opinion or job or economic stature or politics, Jeeps connects you. But
sure.
if we're not willing to find our tribe and to find someone that we connect with
Mhm,
on something, and I
right.
feel like that's why I want, that's why I love that you're here to share your story, because there's common ground that people will have with you that
Mhm,
they don't know unless we're willing to share our story. They
right.
don't know unless we're willing to give a glimpse. And I know I love and I'm grateful that you're willing to consistently share your story, and because it's so important that we do that
Mhm,
and we don't feel ever ashamed about a moment of our story, right? Because
right.
it's what gets us to where we are. And we're only going to be able to change that for the world and let more people do it if some of us gutsy ones are willing to do it first.
Yeah, I agree. I think that more I share my story, I think I give other people hope or inspire them enough to give them a safe space to share their story. Because
Yeah.
sharing our story is freeing.
Mhm.
And yes, especially like during my drinking days and stuff like that, I had a lot of shame and guilt as people do in addiction. But now I can look back and go, I love that girl. That girl was
Yeah.
resistant and she was powerful and strong and tough. She was a single mom with 3 kids at the age of like 26,
Wow.
right? And yet, um, she went through all of that so I can be who I am today
Yeah.
and give the world this because
Yeah.
she was strong enough to do that. So
Mhm.
I don't hold that shame or guilt about
Yeah.
that time in my life. It was a chapter. It didn't define me.
Mhm.
But thank God that girl was
Kept
as
going.
resilient as she
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
because it got me to now,
Mhm.
here and and find a space that I can share all of that um, with people to help inspire them that life does get better. But
Mhm.
I'm very authentic. I'm very real. I'm not perfect. And I think that's what helps me, like even in my coaching, is not
Mhm.
just coaching skills, but I always tell my clients during a consultation, I'm going to be that girl that tells you what you don't want to hear,
Yeah.
you know? And if it's more where they need counseling, a therapist, I recommend that. I
Mhm.
know where my window is. So I don't take clients for that, but I will tell you what you don't want to hear. I will
Yeah.
call you out. I'm all about accountability,
Yeah.
right? Because that's where our power is. It's
Yep.
accountability.
Yep.
So
It is.
and just being real. And I always say, listen, you can't tell me nothing that I probably haven't done already, that I've
Right.
experienced.
Nothing
I have
nothing
all the
shocks
things.
me. Yeah, nothing will
Nothing
shock me.
shocks me. And so there's no judgment. And
Mhm.
I think that's how I give my clients a safe space is because then they're done there.
Mhm.
And I know what it's like to escape an abusive situation. I know what it's like to deal with the loss of a child. I know what it's like to be a single mom with 3 kids waitressing at a Coney Island. I know what all of that's like.
Mhm.
And I'm living proof that if you don't give up on yourself and you work just a little bit every day,
Yeah. Just
whether
keep
it's
going.
something as small as a sticky note on your mirror
Mhm.
that says you are worth it, and
Mhm.
you read it every day, that one day you're going to be able to gain control of your life and live
Yeah.
a life that you choose to live, that you want to live,
Mm.
you
That's
know?
so beautiful. And I mean, it
Mhm.
is. It's keep going, do what you can do today to get to tomorrow
Mhm.
is that's okay, right? It's the one day at a time, 1 minute at a time if you need to. Thank
Yep.
you
It's,
so much for
well,
taking some
thank
time with
you.
me today. I yeah, this I think we could just chat and chat because
Right.
I love your heart and I love just the encouragement that you're able to give. But you're right, it is really authentic. And I think that's what so many of us are missing. And so
Mhm.
I'm really excited that you were here and we were able to give people just a glimpse at your story. So I want to make sure that everyone knows Jeep Babes Show and Shine will be September
7th.
7th. and give us the details, and we'll have the details on the on this episode's page as well, and on our website.
Okay.
So, but give people the details for this year's Jeep Show and Shine, the 2024.
Okay, so this year it's September 7th. It's held at Mount Holly parking lot, which is next door to the Holly Off-Road Park. And this year is going to be super special because we have partnered with or joined forces with Detroit Fest, which is a huge festival for all off-road enthusiasts. So we're expecting about 8,000 attendees. But the show and shine portion, the Jeep Babe portion, is all to raise money for Haven. All profits will go to Haven, and there will be a show and shine for any 4x4. So it could be a Jeep, a Bronco, a side-by-side. So for a small donation, you get to enter your vehicle into the show and shine. But we'll also have vendors that you can shop at. We have a kids area we'll have a face painter for the kids. We have music. There's a concert that night. We have lots of raffles with thousands and thousands of dollars of prizes that we're going to be raffling off. And again, it's all to benefit survivors of domestic or physical and sexual assault.
That's so amazing. Yes. And I wasn't able to make it last year, but I think we'll be in town and I'll be able to make it this year. And Jamie said I could still come in our, family GMC Acadia if we wanted, or we'll rent
Andrea, yes,
a Jeep for the weekend.
You don't have to have a Jeep to be to have a great time. But also one thing, and I'm going to talk you into it, is we did this last year and it was a huge hit. But you can actually buy a seat with an experienced Jeeper.
Yes.
And they will take you over to the off-road park and do a 45-minute tour of going up the hills and climbing Mount Holly and going through some mud. So you get the feel of it, even if it's not something that you do with an experienced driver. So we actually are selling tickets for that right now. So
that's very cool. So I'll make sure, like I said, if you follow me, I'll have the information on my social media. I'll share from Jamie. But if you look at the episode you're watching now, I'll make sure that all the links are there to donate or attend or book an off-road experience with the Jeep Babes and be a mini Jeep Babe yourself for the day. Thank you so very much for spending some time with me today. Again, just, if you can connect with Jamie, please do. Her story and the light that she's bringing to the world is, it really is changing lives, big and small. And I'm so grateful to know you. It's Not Just a Tuesday podcast. I will see you on another Tuesday.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.